My name is Yen Jiao. Before the age of 25, I was a standard, model law-abiding citizen. I spoke softly, always gave up my seat to the elderly on the subway, queued properly when shopping, and if I dropped a 10 yuan bill, I'd pick it up and hand it to the nearest police station. Until one day, I realized a naked truth. In this society, the more obedient you are, the more people treat you like a soft persimmon to squeeze as they please. The shameless live comfortably and eat well, while the sensible ones swallow their anger daily until they get sick and go bald. The turning point of my life happened on a free afternoon when my best friend, Tang Xian, dragged me along crying to be her wingwoman for a blind date. Tang Xian was a standard well-bred lady who spoke as softly as a mosquito. She was timid and an extreme people-pleaser. Her blind date today was Zhao Peng, a total mama's boy introduced by Tang Xian's aunt. I sat at the table right behind them, covered my face with a magazine, and wore earphones, pretending to listen to music. In reality, I had turned off the music long ago, perking my ears up for the gossip. Zhao Peng sat there shaking his leg, twirling the keys to an Audi, probably not even his own, likely rented online by the hour, lifted his double chin, and started his wife recruiting speech. Tang Xian, my mom says it's useless for girls to be highly educated. So what if you make 10,000 yuan a month as a translator? Once you marry me, you have to quit your job and stay home to take care of my mom. You can give your salary to my mom to keep it safe, you young people spend too recklessly. My family has had only one son for 3 generations, so you must bear me at least 2 boys. Wake up at 5 a.m. to cook, and massage my mom's shoulders and neck in the evening. Don't worry, I work in an office making 5,000 yuan a month, more than enough to support you. Tang Xian sat opposite him, her face flushed red with anger. She gripped her purse straps tightly, her lips trembling as she wanted to retort but was too afraid of embarrassing the aunt who set this up. Ultimately, she just lowered her head, eyes brimming with tears, looking exactly like a bullied little quail. Seeing her silence, Zhao Peng thought she had been subdued by his cheap masculinity. He smugly reached out his sweaty, clammy hand, intending to grab Tang Xian's hand. At that exact moment, I crushed the ice cube in my mouth. The nerve called embarrassment in my brain officially snapped. I took off my earphones, stood up abruptly, and ruffled my hair until it looked like a messy bird's nest. With lightning speed, I dashed to the next table, lunged forward, hugged Zhao Peng's thigh, and let out an earth-shattering scream. Ah! Zhao Peng, you heartless bastard! You said you were on a business trip, but you secretly came here for a blind date behind my back. The whole cafe fell into an uproar. Dozens of eyes zeroed in on us. Zhao Peng jumped out of his skin, almost falling backward, frantically trying to shove me away. Who are you, you crazy woman? Do I know you? I didn't let go, instead, I hugged his thigh even tighter. Tears streamed down my face as my tragic cries echoed through the shop. You don't know me? Then who secretly took my savings last month for hemorrhoid surgery? I still have your impotence treatment receipt saved in my phone right here. You scammed me out of 50,000 yuan. If you have the guts, take off your pants and prove it in front of everyone right now. Take them off. Hearing the words impotence and hemorrhoids, Tang Xian reflexively jumped, dragging her chair 3 meters back in horror. The customers gasped, uniformly pulling out their phones to record, pointing and whispering. Zhao Peng's face turned beet red. An extremely vain man like him would rather die than pull his pants down to prove he didn't have hemorrhoids in front of the whole world. Utterly humiliated, he struggled like a fish out of water. He hurriedly grabbed his Audi keys, covered his face with both hands, and desperately shoved his way out of the crowd, fleeing the cafe faster than a wild dog chased by security. The cafe was silent for 3 seconds before erupting in thunderous applause. Some girls at the next table even whistled. Well done, sis. I calmly pulled a napkin from the table, wiped my tears, and smoothed my hair. I turned to look at a petrified Tang Xian and winked. Let's go, what are you still standing there for? 20 minutes later, we sat in a quiet tea house on a street corner. Tang Xin held a hot cup of tea, her gaze shifting from shock to pure worship. She grabbed my hand, excitedly saying, "Yanjiao, you are literally my lifesaver. If it weren't for your stellar scamming act, I really wouldn't know how to escape that mess without offending my aunt." Seeing his face as he ran away was so incredibly satisfying. With that, Tang Xin tapped away on her phone. Ding. My WeChat notified me of a 1,000 yuan transfer. Your fee. Take this and buy yourself some high-end cosmetics, you totally deserve it, Tang Xin smiled radiantly. I looked at the 1,000 yuan on the screen, and a sudden flash of absolute truth struck my brain. Wait a minute. I just spent exactly 3 minutes throwing away my dignity, howling a few lies, without breaking a single sweat, and raked in 1,000 yuan. This was equal to an entire week of hunching over a keyboard at the office while getting yelled at by my boss. I looked out the window at the bustling crowds. In this world, people who are soft-hearted, people-pleasers, and thin-skinned like Tang Xin are everywhere. They get bullied by relatives, oppressed by toxic exes, pushed around, and never dare to fight back. If they are too afraid to tear away their polite facades, why don't I charge money to tear it away for them? As long as it doesn't break the law and involves no physical violence, this unhinged acting skill and shamelessness is an open-pit goldmine. That night, as soon as I got home, I posted an ad on my WeChat Moments. Troubleshooting proxy service, kicking out freeloading relatives, confronting toxic exes, handling hooligan neighbors, and dealing with mistresses. The promise: you're afraid of losing face? Let me be shameless for you. I only use actions and refuse to debate morals. The terms: price negotiable, effectiveness guaranteed. Inbox for a quote. I thought I was just posting it for fun. Who knew that overnight, my WeChat icon would explode with 99+ notifications. It turned out this world was filled with scoundrels who needed to be cleansed by a more professional scoundrel. My career of monetizing my thick skin officially started that day. Ding. My phone screen lit up. WeChat notified me of a 5,000 yuan transfer. Right after came a long voice message accompanied by the sobbing sniffles of Tingjin. She was my very first client. She was a freelance illustrator, gentle, timid, always saying yes, yes to everyone. In short, a standard soft persimmon for the world to squeeze. Yanjiao, I can't live like this anymore. I'm about to jump off a building. Tingjin hiccuped over the phone. I took a sip of water and typed back, get to the point, stop crying. I charge by the hour. She started complaining about the biological garbage currently occupying her high-end apartment. This garbage consisted of 2 people, Lucian, a distant relative from God knows where, and Hao, her 8-year-old grandson. 3 months ago, Lucian used the excuse of bringing her grandson to the city for dental work and called, crying and begging to stay at Tingjin's place for a few days. Consequently, her few days dragged on for a grueling 90 days. Lucian used Tingjin's high-end, 1,000 yuan skincare lotion to rub on her cracked heels. Hao used her expensive lipsticks to color his superhero drawings. The breaking point happened this morning. That 8-year-old brat spilled a cup of orange juice all over Tingjin's 20,000 yuan drawing tablet, casually deleting the manuscript she had stayed up 3 nights to draw for a client. Tingjin was driven mad, trembling as she confronted them. Lucian, who was cracking melon seeds, not only didn't apologize but glared and scolded her right back. Oh my God, what does a child know? He's just active and smart. You're a grown adult. Why are you holding a grudge against a child? If a thing is broken, it's broken, but family ties are what's truly valuable. I'll compensate you 50 yuan to go buy another one, alright? Tingjin was so furious she burst into tears, demanding the grandmother and grandson move out. Immediately, Lucian pulled out her phone, recorded her crying, and sent it to the Shin family group chat, which had 100 members. Lucian was crying and broadcasting to everyone that since Tingjin made money in the city, she looked down on her relatives, calling her immoral, petty, and a bully to the old and young. Afflicted with the people-pleaser syndrome and thin skin, Tingjin could only bite the bullet as her hometown relatives called to scold her. She hid in the bathroom, crying her eyes out, and finally sought my services. Reading her messages, I smiled. Trying to reason with someone like Lucian was like playing the lute to a cow. She was using her elder status and the he's just a child excuse as an invincible moral shield. To defeat her, there was only one way: bypass morality entirely and go straight to full-blown madness. I typed back to Tingjin, "Send me your door passcode now. Then, grab your bag, go shopping, eat some barbecue, and watch a movie. Do not come home before 8 p.m., and turn off your phone notifications. Leave the rest to me." At 3 p.m., I stood before my bathroom mirror and began arming myself. The outfit, a dark striped pajama set that looked exactly like a hospital patient's gown. The makeup, a thick layer of foundation 3 shades too light to create a deathly pale, lifeless complexion, topped with heavy gray eyeshadow around the eyes. I looked like a ghost crawling straight out of hell. The hair, ruffled into a terrifying, messy mop. The props, a large aluminum basin, a rubber hammer, and the most crucial item of all, half a vitamin C effervescent tablet. At 3:30 p.m., I stood outside Tingjin's 12th floor apartment. Beep, beep, click. The door opened. I slipped into the living room. Lucian had her feet propped up on the coffee table, loudly smacking her lips as she ate Tingjin's expensive Shine Muscat grapes, her eyes glued to a melodramatic TV show. The brat, Hao, was gleefully using a black marker to scribble all over the pristine white living room wall. Hearing the door, Lucian assumed it was Tingjin and didn't even bother turning around. "Did you buy dinner yet? Hao wants to eat crayfish." Before she could finish, I stepped into the middle of the room. Without a word, I swung the rubber hammer and smashed it down onto the bottom of the aluminum basin. Clang! 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 The deafening, ear-piercing sound echoed like thunder in the enclosed space. Lucian jumped out of her skin, nearly biting her tongue as a grape fell from her mouth. She whipped around, saw my deathly pale face and disheveled hair, and screamed in sheer terror. "Ah! Who are you, you crazy woman? Who let you in?" The little brat, Hao, was also startled. He dropped his marker and ran to hide behind her. I slowly raised my head. Through my messy hair, I glared at her with bloodshot eyes. I didn't blink, opening my eyes so wide they hurt, exuding a dark, unhinged aura. "I am the downstairs neighbor," I hissed, my voice hoarse and shrill like a vengeful ghost. I pointed directly at Hao's face. "Your grandson has been jumping on my ceiling every single night for 3 months. I have terminal neurasthenia. Last night, he jumped off the sofa, startling me so badly I fell out of bed. I reached into my pocket, pulled out a crumpled piece of white paper, threw it right at Lucian's face, and let out a tragic wail. I miscarried. The son I prayed 3 years for, drank so much bitter medicine to conceive, was stomped to death by your grandson." Lucian was so terrified that all the color drained from her face. Rural folks are often superstitious, and facing a woman who looked like a living demon screaming for her child's life was too much. She trembled, backing up until she crashed into the sofa. You're spitting blood. It was your own carelessness. What does it have to do with my grandson?" She stammered, desperately clinging to her pride. Besides, this is Tingjin's house. If you want a life or money, go find her." I already did. I dropped to the floor, dragging myself step by step toward her, tilting my head back to let out a maniacal laugh. "The lawyer told me you are this brat's guardian. He's been here for 3 months, you bear all his sins." I suddenly slammed both hands onto the floor and roared, "If you don't compensate me 800,000 yuan for my emotional damage and my child's life, I won't leave. I will die right here in this living room. I will bite my tongue and commit suicide, turning this place into a haunted house so my child can come back and strangle your grandson every night. Hearing the number 800,000 yuan, Lucian's pupils dilated to their limits. She wasn't afraid of morals, but she was terrified of paying money. Even selling her house in the countryside wouldn't cover 800,000 yuan. Furthermore, the lunatic in front of her genuinely looked ready to die. If she actually breathed her last breath here, the police would investigate, and her entire family would be ruined. Get out. I'm calling the police. Lucian, trembling, pulled out her phone. At that moment, Hao, spoiled and arrogant, saw his grandmother retreating and aggressively picked up a heavy iron toy car from the table. Taking a running start, he hurled it straight at me. Crazy lady, get out of my house. The car grazed my shoulder. Perfect timing. I glared at him, then secretly smirked. I collapsed backward onto the floor. My eyes rolled back into my head, and my entire body began to convulse violently, like a patient having a severe epileptic seizure. Simultaneously, I used my tongue to push the half-vitamin C tablet to the center of my mouth, mixing it with saliva. 5 seconds later, thick white foam began bubbling out of the corners of my mouth, frothing into large clumps and dripping down my chin, soaking my collar. Ah! Help! She's having a seizure! Lucian shrieked in horror. She dropped her phone, grabbed Hao, and scrambled backward toward the corner of the wall. The brat finally realized the severity of the situation and burst into deafening wails. I continued thrashing on the floor, clawing the air wildly. I intentionally rolled toward Lucian, reaching out a bony arm to grab her ankle in a death grip. With my eyes rolled back and a mouth full of thick white foam, I muttered in a chilling, broken voice. Pay with a life, pay 800,000. If you run, I will bite my tongue and turn your house into a haunted house. Lucian's psychological defenses completely shattered. As the saying goes, the wicked fear the evil, and the evil fear the insane. She could shamelessly argue with Tingjin, but she was entirely helpless against a foaming psychopath demanding a life at her feet. If she hit me, it was a crime. If she called the police while I foamed on the floor demanding money, they'd just put me in an ambulance and force her family to pay. She didn't want to pay 800,000, and she definitely didn't want to be haunted. Let go. You crazy woman, let go of me. Lucian wailed miserably, kicking my hand hard. I pretended to run out of energy and slowly loosened my grip. Granted amnesty, Lucian scrambled up, grabbed a plastic bag of clothes from a chair, and dragged her screaming grandson out the door as fast as her legs could carry her. She was in such a panic she didn't even wait for the elevator, dragging the boy straight down the emergency stairs. Her heavy footsteps echoed down the hallway. She probably wished she had wings to fly straight to the bus station and leave this city forever. The apartment door was wide open, the wind blowing in, and the space suddenly fell dead silent. I stopped convulsing, sat up, stretched my back, and let out a satisfying crack. I walked into the kitchen, spat out the sour, frothy mess of the effervescent tablet, and rinsed my mouth with clean water. Then, I grabbed a broom, swept up the grapeskins Lucian had scattered on the floor, and packed my aluminum basin and rubber hammer into my bag. The entire process, from the moment I banged on the door to the moment those shameless relatives packed up and vanished, took less than 15 minutes. I pulled out my phone and sent a voice message to Shin Tingjin. The enemies have been cleared. She didn't even care about her remaining junk and is probably sitting on the cheapest bus back to her hometown right now. Remember to change your door lock. Tingjin replied instantly, followed by 10 bowing emojis out of sheer gratitude. Good heavens, Yanjiu, what kind of deity are you? I checked the living room camera and got goosebumps. Your acting is better than an Oscar winner's. I transferred the 5,000 yuan fee, plus an extra 500 yuan to buy more vitamin C tablets. Ding. I smoothed my hair and happily pushed the door open to leave. This is just how society works. Never try to use kindness to reform a shameless person. Sometimes, Completely packing away the nerve called shame is an adult's ultimate defense weapon. Tonight, I'm getting barbecue, and I'm adding a portion of garlic roasted lamb ribs. Order successfully closed. My second order found me on a pouring rainy Saturday afternoon. This time, the client was Cheesy, a classic introverted male programmer. He arrived at the meeting point with dark panda circles under his eyes, as skinny as a broken bamboo pole, holding his tea with fingers shaking like he had Parkinson's disease. "Sister Yen, save me." The moment Cheesy spoke, tears welled up in his eyes. "My territory has been occupied." I took a sip of my coffee and leisurely pushed a stack of tissues toward him. "Get to the point." Cheesy's story could be summed up in 4 words: loving the wrong demon. Cheesy and his girlfriend, Li Man, had officially broken up half a year ago. The reason? Li Man complained that Cheesy was a dullard. He wasn't romantic, and despite making 20,000 yuan a month, he couldn't afford to buy her luxury handbags. Breaking up was one thing. But Li Man played the "I haven't found a suitable apartment yet" card, stubbornly squatting in the 2-bedroom apartment that Cheesy paid rent for. Cheesy, being honest, afraid of conflict, and too accommodating, figured she would leave in a few weeks, so he just moved into the guest bedroom. Who would have thought his compromise would become proof of his weakness? Not only did Li Man refuse to move out, but she brazenly treated the apartment as her own. She didn't pay a single dime for water or electricity and ordered takeout daily, leaving trash all over the living room. The climax hit a week ago. Li Man openly brought her new boyfriend, a freelance fitness coach, home to live. Every day after work, Cheesy had to witness this new boyfriend wearing his own shorts, lounging on the sofa watching TV. Those two even treated Cheesy like a maid, ordering him to take out the trash and buy late-night snacks. Cheesy was so aggrieved he didn't dare go home, spending the last half-month sleeping at internet cafes. "Why didn't you call the police?" I frowned. Cheesy sighed and sniffled. "I did, sister. But when the police came, she cried and claimed we were ex-lovers having a financial dispute. They said it was a civil matter. The police just mediated and left. I threatened to terminate the lease. She told me that if I dared to return the apartment, she would go to my company and scream that I raped her, getting me fired. Truly a standard blood-sucking leech. This type of person doesn't break the criminal code, but they use their sheer shamelessness to mentally torture their victims to death. The fee to resolve this case is 8,000 yuan. I held out my QR code, plus an extra 500 yuan for the support team's compensation. Cheesy didn't hesitate for a second. He immediately scanned the code and transferred the money. "Give me your house keys." I picked up the keys from the table with a sharp smile. "Tonight at 7 o'clock, bring 2 neighborhood security guards to stand at the door and enjoy a good show." At 6:50 p.m., I appeared at the gate of Cheesy's residential complex. Behind me were not executioners or tattooed gangsters, but 5 true urban gods of war, the 5 grand aunties of the People's Park Square dancing squad. Leading the pack was Auntie Zhang, 60 years old, with a voice as loud as a bronze bell. She once boasted a battle record of scaring 3 bicycle thieves witless with a single roar. The other 4 aunties all had eyes shining like torches, their hands fully armed with heavy biological weapons, 2 overripe, mushy durians, 3 boxes of super-grade stinky tofu bought from the night market, and a 1,000-watt loudspeaker. "Little Yen," Auntie Zhang patted her chest loudly, "don't worry. Our square dancing squad has dealt with plenty of these mistresses and scumbags. Just according to our contract, 200 yuan each plus a red envelope, right?" "That's exactly right." I handed the cash to the aunties. The old rules apply: no hitting, no swearing, or insulting their dignity. We just use art and fragrance to purify them. At exactly 7 o'clock, I used the key to throw open the door to Cheesy's apartment. Inside the living room, the atmosphere was incredibly heated. Li Man was wearing a face mask, lounging coquettishly in her boyfriend's arms. The guy was shirtless, flexing his muscles, holding the TV remote. The door suddenly swung open. Li Man, startled, popped her head out and scolded arrogantly, "Cheesy, what the hell are you doing back here? Don't you know we need privacy? Get back to the internet cafe." Her words were swallowed right back down her throat before she could finish. I walked in first, followed by the 5 aunties exuding an overwhelming aura. Auntie Zhang, as quick as lightning, marched right up, snatched the TV remote, and ruthlessly hit the power button. "Who are these old hags? Get out of my house right now." The boyfriend jumped up, roaring and flexing his muscles. I leisurely pulled out a sublease agreement, complete with Cheesy's signature and thumbprint, from my bag and slapped it onto the coffee table. "Excuse me, you two." I smiled extremely politely. "The tenant, Mr. Cheesy, due to an inability to pay rent, has officially transferred the lease of this apartment to me. I am now the legal tenant. I have registered for my mother and the aunties from the Neighborhood Arts Committee to camp out here and practice for the city-wide square dancing competition." After saying that, I turned and nodded at Auntie Zhang. "Auntie Zhang, let's begin exercise number 1. Auntie Zhang immediately flipped the loudspeaker switch. Boom. 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 The legendary melody of the song Little Apple blasted at maximum volume, vibrating so hard it rattled the glass windows of the living room. The 5 aunties instantly lined up in a row, throwing their arms, stomping their feet, and clapping loudly against the wooden floor. Bright red silk fans snapped open, flapping violently right in Li Man's face. Deafened by the speakers, Li Man covered her ears tightly and screamed, "Crazy! Are you people crazy? I'm calling the police. I will call the police. Call them, little girl." Auntie Zhang roared with her thunderous voice while continuously stomping her feet. "When the cops come, we'll present the lease agreement. We are practicing our dance at 7 p.m., it's not past 10 p.m. yet, so we aren't violating any noise ordinances. If the police are so capable, let them drag 5 60-year-old women to the station." Simultaneously, 2 other aunties deployed the biological weapons. One casually took a fruit knife and split open the 2 mushy, overripe durians right on the coffee table. The other ripped open 3 boxes of pitch-black stinky tofu, used a skewer to gorge on them piece by piece, and casually fanned the pungent stench toward the sofa. The combination of the blasting music, the thunderous stomping, and the mingled stench of durian and stinky tofu in an enclosed, air-conditioned room created a sensory disaster unprecedented in human history. The fitness coach, someone accustomed to a clean, healthy diet, was immediately hit by the overpowering stench straight up his nose. He grabbed his throat, coughing violently, nearly throwing up on the spot. Man, you said this house was yours." He covered his nose and screamed at Li Man. "Did you lie to me? What the hell is this smell? I can't take this anymore. Don't leave me." Li Man panicked and grabbed his arm. "Let me curse these old hags to death." She tried to lunge forward to snatch the speaker, but how could Auntie Zhang let her touch the prop? The old woman immediately spun around, executed a sweeping dance move, and accidentally used her plump hip to give Li Man a light bump. Li Man lost her balance, fell backward, and landed her butt squarely into the box of pitch-black stinky tofu on the table. Splat. "Ah. My clothes." Li Man flailed like a beached fish as the stench of stinky tofu clung permanently to her expensive designer dress. Standing at the door, I pulled out my phone, turned on the video recording, and casually spoke up. "Miss Li, your intentional destruction of property and obstruction of our legal right of residence will be recorded as evidence. Oh, I forgot to mention. Cheesy has already filed the paperwork to cut off all water and electricity to this apartment starting at 8 p.m. tonight." The boyfriend looked at the chaotic mess in front of him, looked at Li Man covered in stinky tofu, and then looked at the 5 aunties blazing with vigor, preparing to transition into their silver moonlight dance routine. He completely broke down. He cared about his face, and he was terrified that if he was recorded, he'd lose all his gym clients. "This is too exhausting, deal with this yourself." He cursed, snatched up his t-shirt from the chair, shoved Li Man aside, and bolted out the door for dear life. Come back. Li Man shrieked tragically, but the boyfriend had already vanished down the elevator hallway. She turned to look at me, her eyes bloodshot with rage. Yanjiao, what the hell are you to interfere in my business? Where is Qi Zi? Tell him to come out and face me. I stepped closer, pulled out a feng shui compass I bought at the market for 10 yuan, pretended to fiddle and spin it in front of her, and then shook my head and sighed. Miss Li, looking at your complexion, anyone can see your yin energy is too heavy, specializing in sucking other people's blood. Qi Zi has had bad luck for half a year because of you. Just look, your new boyfriend ran for the hills the second things got tough. What face do you have left to cling here? Auntie Zhang immediately followed up with a critical strike. That's right, little girl. A young woman with hands and feet who doesn't bother to work, but instead sponges and squats at her ex-boyfriend's place. With a face this thick, even the city walls would have to call you their ancestor. Sisters. Cue up the song Autumn Rhythm for me. Clang. 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 The piercing sound of cymbals rang out. The 5 aunties surrounded Li Man, initiating a series of mesmerizing, shape-shifting fan dance formations, while the stench of durian and stinky tofu launched another relentless assault. Li Man suffered an ultimate psychological breakdown. She cried and cursed, but her curses were completely crushed by the 1,000-watt loudspeaker. Her whole body reeked of stinky tofu, her boyfriend had fled, the utilities were about to be cut, and she was facing 5 stone-faced aunties fully prepared to dance through the night. She knew then that today, she had finally met the true masters of thick skin. You people are unbelievable. Li Man sobbed. She hurriedly grabbed her bags and cosmetics from the shelves, darted into the bedroom, and frantically stuffed her clothes into a suitcase. In less than 10 minutes, she was dragging her clattering suitcase across the floor, crying and running out of the apartment like a refugee. Before leaving, she looked back and screamed, "I will sue you all." Auntie Zhang fanned her silk fan and shouted back, "If you have free time, come find our dance squad at the People's Park, little girl. We practice there every day from 6 a.m. The door slammed shut. I turned off the speaker. Auntie Zhang quickly opened the windows to ventilate the room. The other 4 aunties neatly cleaned up the durian peels and stinky tofu boxes into a trash bag, not leaving a single stain on the floor. I signaled for Qi Zi, who was hiding in the hallway with the 2 security guards, to come in. Qi Zi looked at the empty living room, completely void of the leech Li Man, his eyes wide with astonishment. He stammered, She really left? That fast? She's gone. She won't dare come back for the rest of her life. I patted Qi Zi's shoulder. Mission accomplished. Remember to change to a new smart lock immediately. Qi Zi almost dropped to his knees to bow to me. Sister Yen, you are truly the savior of my life. I can finally get a good night's sleep tonight. I distributed the payment to the 5 grand aunties. They happily accepted their red envelopes and left with the loudspeaker, not forgetting to remind me to call them again for the next purification service. I stood on the balcony, breathing in the air that was finally fresh again. Another order perfectly closed. My Alipay account jumped with another beautiful number. In this life, indeed, only when money enters your pocket can your mind find peace. The ancients have a saying, respect the old to gain longevity. Since childhood, we are taught to respect the elderly, yield our seats on the bus, and help them cross the street. But textbooks forgot to teach us one thing: what if that old person is an expired old hooligan? My answer is simple: stop respecting them and send them straight to the afterlife. My third order came from Song Zhao, a young girl full of entrepreneurial ambition. She had emptied her savings of 500,000 yuan from years of corporate work to open a French-style pastry shop called Sweetness. The shop was on the ground floor of an old street block. The facade was painted in soothing pastel colors, with transparent glass doors, displaying vibrant macarons and radiating the rich aroma of butter. It should have been an ideal check-in spot for young women. However, for an entire week, Songjiao's revenue had been zero. Some customers even covered their noses and ran away as soon as they approached the door. The cause was Lao Wang, a 65-year-old man living in the dilapidated house right next to the bakery. Lao Wang was the certified scumbag treasure of this neighborhood. No wife, no children, he spent his days shirtless in camouflage shorts, waving a palm leaf fan, loafing around begging for free food, and drinking cheap white liquor. Relying on the fact that he was a local resident for decades, he considered himself the little king of the street. Seeing Song Jiao rent the space to open a fancy bakery, Lao Wang felt an eyesore. He began a sabotage campaign named Bleeding Heart. Every morning, exactly when the bakery opened, Lao Wang would drag a reeking garbage cart filled with rotting watermelon rinds, leftover soup, and buzzing flies, and park it majestically right in front of Song Jiao's storefront steps. He used the excuse that it was a public neighborhood street, so he could park wherever he pleased. As if that weren't enough, he secretly ran a long extension cord from his house and plugged it into the outdoor outlet of the bakery to steal electricity for his battered air conditioner. Song Jiao was so angry she cried. She brought a basket of fruits to his house to gently persuade him. Lao Wang didn't even look, knocked the fruit basket over, and pulled his old hooligan act, slapping his chest loudly. "This road belongs to the state. Your shop opened next to my house, so I put my trash here. If you have the guts, touch me and see. I have high blood pressure and coronary heart disease. If I fall over right here, selling your bakery won't even be enough to pay my medical bills, you little brat." Timid Song Jiao turned pale at the mention of medical compensation. She could only swallow her grievances and retreat to the kitchen corner to cry. The bakery was dead, the rent was bleeding out daily, and she was so desperate she considered transferring the lease. Fortunately, she saw my post on WeChat Moments. "Yanjiao, do you have any way to drive him away? I'm about to go bankrupt." Song Jiao sat across from me in a cafe, her eyes swollen. I stirred my Americano and smirked. Dealing with this kind of old hooligan who loves to play the victim to extort money, the more you yield, the more he pushes. He uses his old life to threaten you, so you're right not to touch him. But I am different. For a fee of 5,000 yuan, I will show him what it means that every thick peel has a sharp fingernail, and what the true patron saint of extortion looks like when she descends to the mortal realm. At noon the next day, the sun was directly overhead, and the temperature reached 38 degrees Celsius. This was the time when Lao Wang, having just finished his lunch, prepared to drag his garbage cart to block the bakery door before taking his afternoon nap. Having prepared my props, I carried a folding canvas chair, a bunch of bright green bananas, a bundle of incense, and a massive loudspeaker, swaggering right up to Lao Wang's front door. At this moment, Lao Wang, shirtless and with a toothpick in his mouth, was noisily dragging the sour-smelling garbage cart out of his yard. He glanced at Song Jiao, who was trembling behind the glass door, and smirked proudly, intending to block the shop as usual. But before he could take a step, I walked up and slammed the folding chair onto the middle of the road, blocking his gate entirely. Clack! The dry sound of metal hitting asphalt rang out. Lao Wang paused, frowning as he glared at me with dagger eyes. "Where did this little brat crawl out from? Are you blind? Get out of the way so I can pull my cart." I didn't even bother to look at him. I leisurely placed the loudspeaker on the ground and cranked the volume to maximum. Then, I placed the green bananas on the asphalt right in front of his garbage cart. I pulled out a lighter, calmly lit 3 sticks of incense, and planted them right into the middle of the bananas. The incense smoke billowed out, and the scene instantly took on a deeply eerie, spiritual vibe. Having completed the rituals, I leaned back and lounged on the folding chair, crossing my arms over my chest and shaking my crossed leg. I cleared my throat and hit play on my phone, which was connected to the Bluetooth speaker. Toot. Honk. Screech. The piercing wail of a swona tore through the quiet summer afternoon. The most grating, tragic version of the funeral song "A Hundred Birds Paying Homage to the Phoenix" blared loudly across the entire street. When a swona is played, if it's not a grand wedding, it's a grand funeral. Me lighting 3 sticks of incense in front of his gate and lying there with my arms crossed was blatantly cursing him to pass away. Lao Wang was stunned for 5 seconds. When his brain finally processed my intensely cursed sequence of actions, his face turned as red as pig liver. "Shit, is this brat crazy?" Lao Wang roared, spitting his toothpick onto the ground. He lunged forward, intending to kick my folding chair away. "You dare light incense and play funeral music in front of my house? Are you tired of living?" As he aggressively lunged forward, his foot in a flip-flop swung up, and the tip of his sandal merely grazed me. Yes, emphasizing here, it merely brushed lightly against the hem of my jeans. Waiting exactly for this golden moment, I took a deep breath with a speed that would command respect even from an Olympic athlete. I clutched my left chest tightly, let out a heart-wrenching, lung-tearing scream of agony, and directly rolled off the folding chair onto the boiling asphalt. Thud. I rolled 3 full times, ending up in the middle of the street, 3 meters away from Lao Wang. Ah. Help. Assault. This old man is murdering me. I wailed tragically, my volume overpowering even the screeching swona next to us. I hugged my chest with both hands, grimacing, my entire body curling up like a boiled shrimp, sweating profusely. Lao Wang's eyes rolled back, his foot, raised mid-air, hadn't even had the chance to land. He was dumbfounded, his jaw dropping as he watched me roll around. He had spent his entire life extorting others by playing the victim, and this was the very first time he was blatantly and shamelessly counter-extorted to this extent. You're lying. I just tapped you once, I didn't even use any force." Lao Wang flusteredly took a step back, pointing at me and scolding. "Oh, neighbors, come out and see," I yelled. Lao Wang tried to molest an innocent girl, failed, and then brutally assaulted me. I ignored whatever he said and continued my textbook wailing. "Uncles and aunties of the neighborhood, please take out your phones and record a video to be my witness." Lao Wang kicked my heart. He pushed me into a heart attack. The commotion instantly attracted the neighbors. Doors cracked open one after another. The idle aunties who had just finished lunch immediately swarmed out, holding their phones up and eagerly pressing record. Standing inside her glass shop, Song Zhao's jaw dropped. She covered her mouth, utterly unable to believe her eyes. Seeing that our audience was fully assembled, I unleashed my critical strike. Panting heavily, I pounded my chest. Feigning a deathly pale face, I pointed a trembling finger straight at Lao Wang. "You old geezer. My heart's blood vessels have been ruptured by your kick. My blood pressure just shot up to 200. I'm dizzy. I'm nauseous. Pay up. Give me a 100,000 yuan medical deposit right now. Call an ambulance. 120, hurry. If I die here, my family will camp in your living room and haunt you until you sell your house." Hearing the words 100,000 yuan and sell your house, Lao Wang's complexion instantly shifted from red to a sickly green. You crazy bitch, you're framing me. I'm the one with heart disease." Realizing he was at a severe disadvantage, Lao Wang resorted to his signature move. He clutched his chest and slowly sank to his knees, preparing to collapse onto the street to compete in a victimhood contest with me. "Go ahead and fall." I propped myself halfway up, pointing right at his face with a cold sneer. "Whether you actually have heart disease or not, a doctor's exam will reveal the truth. But I am young, and my heart is racing. The doctor said I suffer from panic disorder triggered by external trauma. I've already taken photos proving you've been stealing this bakery's electricity. Your garbage blocking their business made my heart so aggrieved that it suffered a blockage. Go on, call the police. If you don't call them today, you're my grandson." The surrounding neighbors immediately erupted into whispers. Serves the old hooligan right, he finally met his match. He usually bullies that bakery girl, but today he hit a real gangster. Lao Wang, hurry up and pay her. If she actually has a stroke, you'll rot in jail. A few drama-loving aunties yelled, adding fuel to the fire. Half kneeling on the ground, listening to the crowd's mockery and staring at dozens of phone cameras pointed directly at his face, Lao Wang broke out in a cold sweat that soaked his back. He knew perfectly well that if this video went online, he would become a laughingstock across the entire internet. Not to mention, if the police investigated his electricity theft, he would face a hefty fine. The old hooligan had spent his entire life using shamelessness to bully good people. Now, defeated by an even more shameless mastermind using his own playbook, the humiliation choked him. You just wait. Shit, I didn't check the almanac before stepping out today, Lao Wang muttered. Suddenly, his knee joints became miraculously flexible. He sprang up, completely abandoning his heart attack. He backed away, frantically grabbed the handle of his garbage cart, and hauled the stinking mess back into his yard as fast as his legs could carry him. Slam! The rusty iron gate was yanked shut and bolted tight. He turtled up completely. About 5 minutes later, through a gap in the window, I saw an arm reach out, swiftly unplug the stolen power cord from Song Zhao's porch, and yank it inside. The crowd of neighbors laughed loudly and dispersed. I turned off the loudspeaker, silencing the tragic Swana music. I stood up, dusted off my clothes, and kicked the bananas and incense sticks into the trash can. Song Zhao rushed out of the shop, handing me a bottle of cold mineral water. She looked at me as if a bodhisattva had just descended from the heavens. Yanjiao, you're incredible. He's actually terrified. He even unplugged the wire. Song Zhao was so thrilled she was on the verge of tears. I twisted the cap off and took a refreshing gulp. Of course he's terrified. With people who use fake morality to emotionally blackmail others, you just have to toss your own morality out the window. If they want to play the victim, I'll play it better. I guarantee that starting tomorrow, whenever Lao Wang sees you, he'll take a detour. Yes. Song Zhao nodded vigorously. I'm transferring the money to you right now. You saved my bakery. Ding. My screen lit up. The 5,000 yuan fee was paid in full. Song Zhao even generously shoved a box of premium macarons into my hands. Carrying my folding chair and the pastries, I strolled happily under the neighborhood's cool shade. It truly was a noble profession. In my career as a proxy villain, I have encountered countless thick-skinned people. But when it comes to treating a future son-in-law like an ATM, the Zhang family in my fourth order easily takes the championship. My final client of the month was Su Wang. He was a gentle IT engineer working at a tech conglomerate. He had a great salary, owned a mortgage department, and possessed a highly tolerant personality. In this day and age, Su Wang was the model golden son-in-law every mother dreamed of. Unfortunately, he ended up with a girlfriend suffering from a terminal case of brother-worshipping syndrome. Here was the situation. The bride price. The bride's family demanded a hefty 420,000 yuan. For a standard family, this was astronomical, but out of love, Su Wang and his parents scraped it together. The secret: the night before the wedding, Su Wang used his fiancée's phone to send a work email and accidentally stumbled upon her texts with her jobless brother, Zhang Chang. The debt: Zhang Chang had been gambling online and owed loan sharks 500,000 yuan. The thugs were threatening to send funeral wreaths to their house. The scheme: Mrs. Zhang, the mother-in-law, and the bride secretly transferred Su Wang's entire 420,000 yuan bride price to pay off the brother's debt. The final trap: they were still 80,000 yuan short. Their solution? Extort an extra 80,000 yuan from Su Wang at the wedding as an alighting fee before the bride would step out of the car. Discovering this felt like a bucket of ice water over Su Wang's heart. The woman he loved merely saw him as a tool to save her gambling brother. He wanted to cancel the wedding and demand his money back. However, if a groom cancels a wedding on the spot without public justification, the bride's family would deny everything, the 420,000 yuan would be gone forever, and a lawsuit would drag on for years. Su Wang needed a flawless table-flipping spectacle. So, he found me. Sunday, exactly 9 a.m. The groom's luxurious wedding motorcade parked in front of the bride's neighborhood. Confetti flew through the air, and relatives from both sides chatted joyfully. Su Wang, looking sharp in his groom's suit and holding a bouquet of roses, stepped up to open the car door for his bride. But the moment the bride prepared to step out, her mother, Mrs. Zhang, suddenly shoved Su Wang aside and sat majestically right on the hood of the wedding car. "Hold on." Mrs. Zhang lifted her chin and announced loudly. "In our hometown, there are rules. Before the bride steps out of the car, the groom must show his sincerity. We need an 80,000 yuan alighting fee. If you have the money, you can take the bride. If not, turn the car around and go home." The entire street fell dead silent. The smiles froze on the faces of the groom's relatives. Su Wang's parents turned pale. They stepped forward and pleaded softly, "In-law, we already paid the 420,000 yuan bride price in full, not a penny less. Where are we supposed to find 80,000 yuan in cash right here at the door? Please, give us some face and let the kids proceed, don't miss the auspicious hour. If you don't have money, don't pretend you can afford a wife." Zhang Cheng pushed his way out of the crowd, pointing arrogantly right at Su Wang's face. "My family spent years feeding and raising my sister. You're going to be stingy over a measly 80,000? Su Wang looked at the bride sitting in the car. She kept her head down and whispered, "Wang, go borrow 80,000 from your friends for now. My mom worked hard to raise me, don't make her angry." This blatant daughter-selling scheme was so shameless that even the neighborhood bystanders began pointing and whispering. Su Wang clenched his fists, perfectly acting out a look of shock and utter devastation. Meanwhile, his right hand slipped into his pocket and pressed the button to text me. Ding. Standing at a street corner 50 meters away, I received the signal. Smiling, I smoothed the collar of my red leather jacket and adjusted the thumb-thick fake gold chain around my neck. Standing right behind me were two massive, muscular young men with full neck and arm tattoos. They were extras I had just hired from the Hengdian film studio gates for 200 yuan a pop. "Showtime, brothers. Do you remember the cinematic slap script?" I instructed. "Don't worry, sis. We play thugs who get beaten up for a living. We're professionals." The two gum-chewing boys nodded firmly. I lifted my chin, aggressively shoved through the crowd surrounding the wedding car, and charged straight into the epicenter of the drama. "Make way. Make way for your boss." My shrill, piercing voice rang out. The guests parted in shock. I shot like an arrow toward the wedding car, ignoring the groom entirely, and locked onto the arrogant little punk, Zhang Cheng. I grabbed him tightly by his suit collar, swung my arm high, and delivered a heaven-shattering slap. However, my hand stopped exactly 5 centimeters from his cheek. At that exact microsecond, the tattooed actor behind me violently clapped his hands together. Smack! A crisp, deafening sound echoed, so loud that everyone present shuddered. Zhang Cheng stumbled, holding his face in a daze, entirely confused as to why the slap sounded so loud but didn't hurt. I didn't give him a second to think. I got right in his face and roared. "You little punk! Did you think you could escape your online loan by turning off your phone? Your debt has been sold to us. 500,000 yuan. You bragged online that you were going to scam the groom out of a 420,000 yuan bride price, plus extort an 80,000 yuan alighting fee today to pay us off. Where is the money?" The oxygen was instantly sucked out of the venue. You could hear a pin drop. Zhang Cheng, whose guilty conscience was already eating him alive, suddenly faced a gangster-vibed woman reciting his darkest secrets. His legs turned to jelly. He frantically held his head, pale as a ghost, and spilled everything. "Boss lady, spare my life. I have the money. The groom's family is getting the 80,000 yuan ready now, plus the 420,000 yuan in my card. I'll transfer it immediately." Mrs. Zhang jumped up in a panic, lunging forward to cover her son's mouth. "Shut up. You're spitting blood. My son doesn't owe anything." I scoffed coldly, pulled a random traffic ticket from my pocket, and waved it in the air like a damning piece of evidence. "The IOU is right here. Look at this, everyone. This family is extorting 80,000 yuan right now just to pay off this precious son's gambling debt. Bride price? A lighting fee? It's all a scam to save this gambling addict." My words dropped like a bomb. The crowd erupted into whispers, their gazes shifting to utter disgust. Seeing public opinion firmly on his side, Su Wang unleashed his masterclass acting. He slowly dropped his wedding bouquet, stepping back with eyes full of profound shock and betrayal. "Shaoli, so you knew about this too," Su Wang's voice choked. "Am I just an ATM to pay your brother's debts?" The bride panicked, rushing out of the car to grab his sleeve, but Su Wang threw her hand off and declared loudly before hundreds of eyes. "This wedding is officially cancelled. I am calling the police right now. Return the 420,000 yuan bride price, not a single penny less." The battle was won. Su Wang achieved a flawless victory. Wealth preserved, he successfully secured his hard-earned money. Toxic ties cut, he legitimately cancelled a disastrous marriage without losing face. Public sympathy, he became the most pitied man in the neighborhood, leaving the Zhang family entirely ruined. I slipped back into the crowd and signaled my actors to retreat. Ding. My phone vibrated with an Alipay notification. Su Wang had transferred my fee with a message, "Thank you, Sister Yen." Explosive acting. The extra is for you three to get midnight snacks. Across the street, my two extras were happily using alcohol wipes to scrub off their fake tattoos. I looked up at the clear city sky. Being a good person is exhausting, you always have to maintain face and fear public ridicule. It's much better to wear a shameless coat, get paid to play the villain, and use poison to fight poison. As long as the money keeps flowing into my account, my shame nerve can stay permanently severed. The end.